Hello, welcome to episode 14 of our discussion series of No Holds Barred Pod. That's Sal Dodgson over there.
Hello.
And we've got our first return guest on discussions. We got James Koppert back. I'll allow him to introduce himself. And then we're going to have a talk about ADHD again, because it's really important, especially at the moment.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me back on the best political podcast there is. I'm James Koppert. I'm a youth worker, but I also very much involved in lecturing and consultancy in ADHD, and particularly ADHD behaviours and things like that.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for coming back, James. It's really cool of you, especially at short notice. But I think this is sort of prompted by the ludicrous documentary that's happened in the week on Channel 4 and how it's led to some, let's say, hot takes online about ADHD again, isn't it? So, Sal, you've kind of watched this, haven't you? So maybe you should
I have just
talk about
watched
intro that for us.
In the interests of research and stuff. And it was quite the eye-opener, to be honest. It's a Channel 4 documentary that they've seen fit to air featuring Dr. Max Pemberton, a NHS psychiatrist, which is problematic. Under the guise of researching is ADHD a myth? And it's some of the worst propaganda I've ever seen in my life. It was not balanced. There was no... They focused on one child, who was a young teenager called Mason. And they talked about how it's a behavioural problem. I mean, literally at the end of it, he says that his conclusion is that ADHD is a social construct and we're medicating behavioural issues in children. Now, I will disclose now, I am potentially ADHD, very probably autistic. Yet to be determined. But I grew up being policed by like military style parents, and if I didn't behave, I got a whack. And I can tell you that that kind of parenting has created the illnesses I walk through life with today. Because you're behaving along a diktat that doesn't actually exist in the wider world. So it screwed me up for decades because I was behaving how I was taught to behave because I thought that was how it was. But no, turns out that violence is wrong. Did you know? It begets itself, much like everything negative. And it took me a long time to figure all that out. So I've got a lot of issues with everything that they said. He himself took the medication because he essentially finagled himself into an ADHD diagnosis. I could go and do that with MS or something, with all my symptoms. Yeah. I could tick off loads of issues and illnesses that I don't have because of the, what's the name of that chart with the circles?
I can't remember.
I know, there's loads of charts.
The overlapping circle chart.
A Venn diagram.
Thank you. Because the Venn diagram of symptoms. Yeah. And then he reported that he felt terrible on it. Shock fucking horror.
Is this the same guy that I saw the headline on X or wherever who was, I took loads of my kids' ADHD medication? Is that different?
Same fella, and the guy who went after Professor Jason Arday, having never met him or spoken to him, and pathologised him before he dispatched himself. The man is a right-wing shill. That's all this can be. But I urge even those who don't want to watch propaganda, in the interests of listening to what they're trying to sell, it's worth listening to because it's such... I mean, at the end of it, it says Mason had like 8 weeks or 12 weeks off his medication and his schoolwork was suffering, whereas it hadn't when he was on the medication, and it upset him, but he stayed off it. And after some poor exam results, they decided to put him back on the medication. That's in the last minute of the documentary. Right? It's an absolute insult to people who are suffering because they don't care about the suffering caused by it. There's a lady on it, I think she's a former something at the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Former, to be noted. And she said that if she was in charge, she would dismiss ADHD completely, get rid of all the medication, and start with educating people differently to the one-size-fits-all approach.
Sounds a bit
Because
like the
apparently
old.
it's that easy.
Sounds like Catherine Birbal Singh kind of approach to education.
The irony I found with it, which I was hoping somebody could have confirmed for me that also watched it, but never mind. Their entire argument does actually fit antidepressants. It doesn't fit ADHD medication.
Oh, right, okay.
Which I thought was very interesting. So,
what's your take, James, on that?
I think so. I mean, the fact that he took the medication and felt awful on it is no surprise. If you don't have ADHD, I remember I was training a drug and alcohol service, and there was a gentleman there, and they're a really good service who employ ex-service users, and he was an ex-addict, and he said he was at a party, everyone was taking amphetamine, they were all, acting like they were on amphetamine. He took it, and he went to the kitchen, started doing the washing up because his brain completely calmed down. So again, if that's any proof that it's a different brain structure and the effects that medication has, if you take this medication and you don't have ADHD, it is amphetamine, and you are buzzing. You probably act more like someone with ADHD.
Causes it.
Yeah, and but if you take it and you do have ADHD, obviously there's lots of different types, and it affects everyone's brain differently. And some people it doesn't work quite as well. But on the whole, it speeds up those parts of the brain that ADHD affects, and then it kind of levels you out. So there's no wonder. And in terms of the education system, in a way, they are right that ADHD in Finland isn't as much as an issue because the education system fits everyone, and people with ADHD do really well, the same as they do in youth services. The way that we work as a youth service, people in that ADHD environment often end up right up here, rather than being a problem, they end up being young leaders, etc. So in that sense, it works. But that doesn't stop the framing of how you see yourself in ADHD and society, and the negative causalities that then affects.
So
it's
where's
funny
this?
You say that.
Go on, sorry.
So just to interject, you've just solved a lifelong wonderment of mine, because when I was 15, an older friend of mine got a wrap of whiz off her brother. And we were in a nightclub one night because that was my childhood. And we shared it, and it did absolutely nothing for me at all. Nothing, not a drop, nothing. And I thought, there must be something wrong with me. Just doesn't, or maybe I'm just dead hard. 24 hours later, I projectile vomited in a toilet, and then I didn't eat for a week. That was the only thing that happened to me. So that explains that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you reckon it sort of neutralised your brain a bit, and you just went home and chilled out for a bit?
I never touched it since because it didn't do anything. So why would you bother?
Oh yeah, pointless. Yeah, fair enough.
So I suppose in a way it was good. It's good to experiment sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, strange. So how is this kind of like? I mean, I've seen all sorts online this week following that. Like even like Lucy Connolly piping in like is about ADHD and stuff as well, saying, "What did she say? There's superpowers if you learn how to use them to your advantage. Stop acting like victims and complaining you're going to lose your pip. Use your superpower. Work smarter, not harder." That was Lucy Connolly's take on it.
Thank you, Lucy, for another great informed analysis there. There are advantages. There are some advantages of having ADHD, and in a vacuum, we would be doing really well, but then it ignores all the other factors that go into being a person with ADHD. Yeah, and the negativity that you get, that stat I said before, where the average child by the age of 10 are told off 20,000 times more. And that's just one simple example of how that you then frame yourself within the context of a neurotypical world, and how that negatively then affects you and then affects mental health issues. And just to say, you don't get ADHD you don't get PIP, for ADHD. You get PIP for how that has negatively affected you. And it's normally the comorbid conditions that how you've been treated having ADHD, the levels of depression, suicidality, anxiety, and the crossover as well with things like schizophrenia and everything. If you just put ADHD on your PIP form, you're very unlikely to get get PIP. You know, my ADHD is absolutely quite on the high level, and I manage quite well, but that's not because of me managing my ADHD. It's because I've learned to manage the mental health kind of negative things that have come along with ADHD.
Yeah, fair
But there's
enough.
a lot of suffering that comes before that, though, isn't there?
A heck of a lot. My
And
brother,
that's something no one's talking about.
my brother took his own life. The suicidality rate is you know, globally is about 14% compared to 2.7% of the population. And then I think cultural differences in the UK are even more. So it's 19.6%. One study showed in the UK. So we are, if you think of us culturally, we're very reserved. So if you're a bit hyper and expressive and flamboyant, you don't fit in, you're bullied, you're targeted. Our education system is still very much the kind of post-industrial revolution authoritarian existence of education, and we don't tend to do well in that, and we're demonized. We then generate the psychological responses like PDA, oppositional defiance disorder, which then set us up negatively to fail in life, in relationships, everything else. So it isn't the ADHD itself, because, you know, Boris Johnson, I think is a great example of someone that I think he's not diagnosed, but if you look at his life, has ADHD. And when you're in an environment that tells you you're good all the time, rather than negatively betrays you, like going to that type of school, having that type of background, you are then projected to the top for your ability to communicate, your ability to be quite gregarious and interact with lots of different people. And that's a real positive. So there are lots of positives. Most TV presenters will have it and everything, but it's this negative thing. So if you're working class and you have it, then you're even more confounded. And if you're black and working class, even more so, because it's even more seen as something that's about you. And I think this political thing at the moment is putting the blame on the individuals. By the way, individuals that have fought for decades now to have ADHD recognized as something and be treated different, and finally kind of chipping away at the education system to change this, and then having that rug pulled back from under us and having that fight again. And the crazy thing is, so for want of a better word, excuse me, but the thing that is so unfortunate in that is if we even take the human aspect out of it, the cost on the economy by not treating us in a more open and accepting way is enormous. You know, it just doesn't make economical sense.
Well, it does, though, because the people who are behind these documentaries, I am convinced, are a short skip and a hop away from James Orr and his foundations. I would be amazed if there's no link up there. And these are the people who profit from others' misery, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's why they're doing this right-wing propaganda nonsense, because they don't care about the fallout on other people's lives. They don't care about people dispatching themselves. 20 people a day in this country on average do that. 20 people a day. That should be a national emergency. But we don't care because they're all poor and they're sick.
Yeah.
And they've been driven there because society just shuns them, because they're seen as not worthy, because we've had 16 years of demonising the most vulnerable, and apparently it's fine, unless it's somebody of note. And then it's not fine. Riddle me that.
And I think as well, so like I think people with ADHD are a bit of a canary in the coal mine as well.
Yeah.
And I think we're the first to be adversely affected by how society's changing, by algorithms, by the way that our concentration and everything is affected, and our mental health is affected by social media and all these things that we're given our entertainment and everything, and we're the first to have those adverse effects. So actually, by trying to point the blame on us rather than what's causing it, it makes sense for those in charge as well.
It's the propaganda.
Yeah, this kind of fit
the definition.
Yeah, this kind of whole documentary, the timing feels interesting to me, because it falls exactly when Reform have started controlling the media narrative again. Like, they've completely dominated since like Farage won his thing, and part of their big control is sort of demonization of disabled community, and particularly when they start punching down on those with ADHD, autism and stuff, and they, belittle it into, just get up out of bed and go and get a job sort of bullshit, It just seems like a really strange piece of timing that they would drop this now. But it is just, like you see from that Lucy Connolly tweet, it's fed right into their narrative perfectly, hasn't it? So.
There's lots of people talking about it who don't even have a clue what it is. And I mean, even the idea is ADHD a myth, how it's framed. I mean, we wouldn't do that about any other condition. It's not a mental health condition.
No, is cancer a myth or something like that? Yeah, exactly.
It is, that you in theory could scan everyone's brain, and I think we probably will in the future, and just be able to diagnose like that. It's a mutated gene. There's different brain construct. We maintain synapses that we, where other people don't they prune them. The frontal cortex develops 3 years slower. These aren't things that are caused by an idea, a concept that then you just start mutating, and not forgetting all those other comorbid conditions, like the levels of hypermobility within it is enormous. Now, I don't hear a social construct and suddenly my joints start stretching. It's absolutely ridiculous to even.
I remember you telling us that last time about the hypermobility. I'd never heard that before until you told us last time about that. But that's the thing. I mean, this is the overall narrative of like reducing welfare at the expense of disabled people, whether it's, people with mental health or ADHD or, physical, any kind of disability they're punching down on. But like that, as you say, people just don't have a fucking clue what ADHD really is, do they? They don't understand that the physical part of it is different. Physiology is completely different to other people.
And let's be honest as well. If you want to reduce the people with ADHD on it, then we need to change our education system. But then there's a threat with that, because if you look at history, everyone from William Wilberforce onwards that show ADHD traits, we are the people. Neurotypical people tend to kind of just follow in line and keep everything going. People with ADHD tend to be revolutionaries, radicals and things like that. So to suppress us actually is quite, good for the elite system at the top that doesn't want to be rocked, So you could be conspiratorial about it as well. We tend to do quite well when we keep going.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I see that. I mean, that kind of feeds into the whole sort of economic side of it, because if you embrace that, the people with ADHD, and then, as you say, change the education system to allow them to sort of flourish within it, then, you're going to end up with loads of like really important kind of, what's the word, productive and sort of inspirational people.
Progressive, I think, is the word.
Progressive as well, yeah.
The word that they despise.
Yeah, they do.
Because, ban the word evolution then. Fine. Be done with it. Dickheads. I don't get it, but I think this is what, like, neurodivergent people do. They notice shit that's wrong.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's certainly been my entire life experience.
We tend to be more
told to
empathic.
Shut up and sit down.
Yeah, we tend to be more empathic. We ADHD people. We tend to be more logical. So we look at things and say, this isn't working. This doesn't make sense. We tend to be more artistic and creative. And I'm talking in generalizations, of course, but we do. We tend to be more unafraid to say, not just go, yeah, but this is just how we do it. We tend to go, why? And say, well, we need to change it, And these are part of the ADHD traits and our autistic, brothers and sisters as well. They have brains that are very different, that are the inventors and the people that went, this is why you're doing that doesn't make sense. And as I say, neurotypical people tend to just keep going with the order and keep things just ticking over like the wheels. And it could be dangerous. If all the ADHD people weren't demonized, we would be running the country, because if we didn't have mental health, we are the ones that set up podcasts. The amount of people that go, shall we do a podcast that have ADHD, or start a band, or start writing, or, all these things are in enormous amounts of those kind of fields, of radicals, creatives, revolutionaries, philosophers. The ADHD brain is there in enormous amounts. So we are dangerous to the status quo.
Yeah, I was going to say that conspiracy thing suddenly doesn't seem so much of a conspiracy theory anymore. That really seems like people could be actively, as you say, it's sort of demonizing the working class aspect of it completely, which is, what the elite sort of do anyway. But if you add that into the mix, it becomes even more dangerous for them.
Rich disabled people, good. Poor disabled people.
Yeah, look at all these really clever people coming up from council estates that are going to take our jobs. Let's push them back down again. Yeah. Yeah,
I did wait for some time. Well, I waited for the entire documentary to hear them address the epigenetic side of it, which is how your environment influences genetic alterations over time.
Did they speak about it?
They didn't address it once, which I think is like the overriding problem of all neurodiversities, because we're living in a circumstance that is, if we were rats, they'd have ended this experiment through cruelty. This austerity, like increasing the wealth gap and making life more difficult for the people at the very bottom, increasingly year on year on year, and it never ends. But it does result in a lot of people dispatching themselves.
Yeah. We just look
Some of whom matter, most don't.
If we look at the prison system, the justice system, and I've just written some notes down. So they reckon, where are we? Women in jail make up 41% of ADHD diagnosable traits, and for men that's about 25%. So the cost of that per year, per person, is about £40,000. And this is the study said unmanaged ADHD. But with diagnosis and treatment, we're looking per person about £2,600 a year, and that disparity is enormous. So there's no economic or political. That's just the justice system. So imagine that saving putting back into mental health services. Full stop.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It just is. There's no logic. It's completely irrational, and it's so frustrating. Early diagnosis as well just makes such an impact on how people frame themselves and stay in the education system, go on to further education. Drug and alcohol use is reduced by about 50%. It was a very small study, but one study shown that 95% of people coming into a police station under arrest had 95% of them had ADHD diagnosable traits for drug and alcohol crimes. So this is costing us a fortune, but underneath the economic idea are human beings.
Yeah, suffering through torturous agony.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it'll never going to affect these people, so they don't have to care. The Boris Johnsons of this world, he, like you said, he is acceptable because he's got loads of money and it doesn't alter his existence at all.
No.
Also because he's got like some sort of psychological deviance whereby he doesn't give a shit what people think about him. So
psychopathy or sociopathy, one of the two or both.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, to make the decisions they make without giving a flying shite, yeah, they've got to be psychopaths.
With the egocentricity of ADHD, we learn it, but if you're in an environment where you're told you're brilliant all the time, that egocentricity will maintain and probably continue. So you becoming a narcissist does seem quite likely in that environment, unfortunately. But yeah, it's. I think the thing with this documentary and why it's so dangerous is people that potentially are waiting for diagnosis or are going to get, thinking, shall I get diagnosis? Things like this will stop them. And then that goes on to them going, it's me, I'm wrong. There's something wrong with me. I'm a bad person. I'm failed. I am the wrong one that doesn't fit into this world. And that is the danger.
We get told that though.
We do.
By our nearest and dearest. I mean, fucking hell.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's now been amplified by the press or the right wing predominantly, isn't it? And then, as you say, that sort of feeds through to social media, which is a big part of everyone's life, not just those with disabilities or ADHD. But I don't know. It's the
entire tone of the show took me back to being a kid.
Did it? Was it that bad?
It was. It could have been one of my parents that had written it. Do you know what I mean? I don't believe in this. That's a claptrap. Okay, well done. Now provide your findings.
I just saw that ADHD UK charity have said it's absolutely horrendous, and they've complained to Ofcom. They said the programme's own end credits told you what its 60 minutes wouldn't. That the boy at its centre went back on his medication and his schoolwork improved. Their own experiment disproved the conclusion, which is what you just said, Sal. Yeah. It's just insane. And why did it go out on Channel 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd expect a little bit better.
Everywhere's tainted.
Yeah. And there's a lot of psychologists who are siding on that side, ignoring all the other facts. And I think it's that there is an urge to cure, and so they deal with mental health, and they want to cure mental health, and maybe that is the kind of the mechanism behind their feelings. But we need to. It doesn't make sense. It is a different brain functioning, and you can maybe work on the stuff around it.
No solutions.
You can't cure it physically. It's nothing that needs to be cured, is it? It's not that.
No.
Like, you know.
They provided no solutions other than saying they believed, those people that did believe it said that it was a behavioural issue. Like, oh, so you're going to bring back the cane? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's it.
Twats.
Yeah, the prefrontal cortex is delayed on some parts. So in terms of like rational thinking and decision making, we're massively delayed. But at the same time, the bits that can control movement are develop early. So we've got this early development of movement and energy with a delay in rational thinking and everything, which is why we behave like we do, and why some adults actually level out, but some of it, like myself, don't. Still hyperactive. I've got a paddle under my desk right now that I'm rocking, you know.
Is that what you do? Yeah.
Yeah. I want to put a dynamo on it and generate electricity.
Just power a bit of your home.
Yeah. But so, you know, and when we look at, again, at Finland, and I'm hoping actually to get a scholarship to go out there soon to study some of this.
Wow.
They do 15-minute lessons and movement breaks, 15-minute lessons and movement breaks. And that's why, you know, ADHD isn't much of an issue. So it is a structural issue. And I really believe as well, our education system at the moment, I won't say who it was actually, because she's well known, but someone had asked me why when they have more understanding, are people getting in trouble more in education with ADHD? And I said, well, the digitalizing and numerizing behavior. And I says, it wasn't good when I was at school because I'd get sent out the classroom and shouted at, or I'd get sent to the head teacher. But that was that. I would then come back in the classroom and sit down. Whereas now they might have more understanding, but still our, not just ADHD, but for our autistic brothers and sisters, their behaviors are being told, you need to calm down. You need to stop answering back. And they're getting punished more than there was when they're more understanding, because they'll say, I've warned you once, James, like your name's on the board. I would have kicked off at that immediately and said, well, why? I am trying to concentrate. There would have been no one else trying as hard to concentrate as me. So I would have been frustrated at that. And then I would have kicked off. That would be my third warning. And then I'd be out the class. And then it would reach so many, and then I'm excluded. And that's just the normal way that a lot of schools, particularly academies, are working. Not all of them. There's some really good ones out there. But we're seeing digitalization of neurodiverse behavior leading to the accounting of times you've been in trouble, leading to exclusions. Whereas before, we just get told off and sent out and then come back in. So for me, that's the reason why. That's not from a study. That's my own personal kind of perception on it all. But it seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do you think because I've been paying a lot of attention to this lately, the justice sensitivity aspect, do you think that comes from like years and years of having to defend yourself rather than like the genetic aspect of the issue?
I think it's maybe a bit of both. Maybe our brain is a bit more empathic, because we have to learn it like a scientist. We start off at the same point and we learn it a little differently to neurotypical people. So when we see someone in pain, so a lot of my friends with ADHD can't watch the news because they feel it as if it's happening to them. They can feel empathy that strongly. And then, so how you've been treated and that high level of empathy, there is that drive for change, you know, and wanting to change and fight for other people as well. So I think it's yeah, both those things, both a kind of brain evolution thing and just how we've been treated in a context, and then we relate to other people as well. So yeah, I think you're right. It wouldn't surprise me if most people that set up charities, if we put a correlation, it's a lot higher than the average in the population of people with ADHD that feel like, you know, that like this is wrong and we want to change it. It'll be a lot more than average.
That's hopeful.
But you've got the capacity to do it. When you demonise and have the mental health issues, then, you know, that's where we
Is there any kind of positives coming through at the moment that we could highlight that, you know, counter the sort of narrative? What I was trying to say before I got so rudely interrupted by the power cut was, have we got anything positive we can use to counter the narrative? That sort of thing, James, I was trying to get to.
I thought you'd answered your question when you just cut out.
Yeah, I'm off. Yeah, I'm done now. I'm off.
I think there, on the whole, well, up until maybe this week, my answer would have been different, because I think there was. I think, you know, years ago we were fighting teachers saying there was no such thing as ADHD, social workers saying there was no such thing as ADHD, whereas we kind of come to a consensus that it is a condition. I always say when I do my lectures, it's unfortunate in a way that we don't have purple skin or anything like that, because people could immediately see that we are different. Yeah. And I don't know if I said it in the last podcast, but a friend of mine, she's got 3 children, one with Down syndrome, one with autism, one with ADHD. And she says a child with ADHD is the most disabled as a child, because her autistic child comes in the room and they realise quite quickly that they're autistic. And so they put their level of support up and their expectations slightly lower. The Down syndrome child comes in the room and they completely change how they work and interact with that child and their expectations. And the person with ADHD comes in the room and they see someone extremely intelligent, extremely capable. So their expectations rocket up there and the level of support goes down there. So when they fail, it's their fault. And so one of the problems is we do look the same as everyone else and can do a lot. And that almost creates a paradox with people. So from people that don't know much about ADHD, they do see people exceptionally capable, maybe more capable than the average person. But they don't see the other parts, and that confuses them, because it's like, oh, you can go on stage and talk to people. Why can't you arrive on time and not put 8 things in your diary at the same time, and, you know, not forget everything and this type of thing? So that's kind of been the biggest barrier, and maybe another reason why we're the most targeted is that paradox. You know, we are perceived as being exceptionally capable when you meet most people with ADHD. So then the failure is put onto you, not the condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when you've been abused all your childhood, you learn to mask pretty damn quick, don't you?
Yeah,
you do. Yeah, and let's be honest, if you've got parents,
you appear like a normal person, like everybody else, because that's all you want.
The problem. Yeah.
Particularly women. Yeah, particularly women have to do that even more. And it, you know, let's not forget there's a gene that's mutated, and if we've got it, one or both of our parents likely have it as well, and they were undiagnosed, and so then the life that creates and their output that often puts trauma. So our generation has it a lot. I think the positive is people our age, we've had kids, we're aware of it. I was at a friend's house the other day, aware of his neurodiversity, and his son was jiggling about, jumping around and everything. And I watched how he parented, and it was very different, because you know, we would have been told off. We would have been seen as purposely causing problems and being disobedient. And he just said, "Be really good if you could calm down. Don't worry, I know you're trying." And that difference, how that will frame that child is enormous. That lack of demonization will be enormous for that child growing up. So I think this generation, although the education system is messing it up a bit, but this generation, at least with parents, will have some more positive outcomes. But I also think that is another problem, sorry to keep going, in the education system, because I think we are empowering our children and we are empowering them to care about their feelings. We've brought up our neurodiverse kids to be able to self-regulate and everything, but then they go in the education system and they're told, no, it's authoritarian again. So again, this is a kind of
mixed messages.
conflict. Yeah, and
yeah, it's a hard battle then, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, we're still authoritarian in the British education system, and we're a little bit behind some of the other countries.
Yeah,
it baffles me that. Sorry, Don. Just
no, carry on.
This prime minister making machine that we've got, that is apparently the peak of education, should be a fucking klaxon warning to everybody.
What, Eton?
Cambridge not only
and,
produced
yeah.
Liz Truss, but it's produced a lot of these people on the right, and it hosts James Orr, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah?
visiting, or whatever he is. He's the head of, can't remember now off the top of my head, but yeah, he does.
Theology
he's part of
or
the
some
divinity. Yeah, that's
couldn't be
it.
theology,
Yeah.
could it? But this is what I'm saying. Like the head rots, the snake rots from the head. And Oxford and Cambridge are the head of the fucking snake of this absolutely despicable education system we've got.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's killing us from all sides.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by what you said, James, though, and it's something that I've seen as well with the parenting aspect. I mean, that's got to be a fulcrum now for positivity, because everything, hopefully, from the parenting perspective going forward from this point is going to be a better. And your kids and their kids and their kids then understand more and more about it. So if we could change the system around that, it would be, everything would start to fall into place a bit, wouldn't it? I'd hope.
Definitely, yeah, and that level of self-forgiveness, understanding, blaming a condition rather than self-blame makes such an enormous impact on mental health. So, Pumpkin Cat's joining us.
That's it.
You're gorgeous.
I'm the only one with that cat.
My cats haven't figured out how to jump up here yet.
She's a regular feature.
Yeah. No. Well, what's the time? What time are we? 41. Okay, yeah, I'm a bit conscious of time. So, anything else we want to go over before we wrap up? I think, I don't know.
I think, go on, Sam.
I'm just going through my notes to make sure I've mentioned everything. The only other thing I had written down is like, what is the human experience supposed to be were we not under the kibosh of establishment austerity, which, let's face it, is going to run and run and run. They can say everything they want until they do a reset. Nothing's going to get any better, and they're not doing that anytime soon. But then what is the human experience under this end stage capitalism? This seems to be it. And it's not the human experience we're supposed to have. It's not like the nurturing, nourishing experience that makes us well human people. It is literally aimed to make life worse for the least furnished in terms of security and finance.
Yeah.
And it's just such an unlevel playing field is essentially what I'm trying to say. No wonder people are getting their illnesses exacerbated.
Austerity in terms of demonisation and ADHD is also something enormous in this country, because as someone that's been working in youth services for 25 years now, in the past, there used to be youth clubs. And as I said, it's a reason why so many youth workers have ADHDs, because that was a positive environment where they thrived and it really helped them. So then they want to help other people. But we also had free to access sports. We had lots of free football, cricket, gymnastics, all these were funded. We had free to access arts and community spaces. Austerity destroyed them. And if you have negative input at home, which a lot of people with ADHD do or did, and at school, these were places, at least there was one place in your community where there were adults that said, what you just did was really good. You're a really good person. You're good at this kind of thing. That's gone. So we're just in this constant negativity loop. Is there any wonder why
doom loop
mental health is increasing, with our young people? And it's cause and effect. It's enormous, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I've not seen the documentary, Sal, so you'll have to tell me. I think some of the things, again, the psychologists present, and correlation is not causation. So I know Gabor Mate, who I, respect in so many ways, demonstrated that if you have counselling, then you ADHD's gone. And to put it bluntly, it's not exactly what he said, but the reality is that helps. You know, you get rid of some of that, which gives you more capacity for every other executive function to think about and everything. You know, vitamin D, vitamins, zinc, everything. There were study shows if you have vitamins and a healthy diet, but they gave some people placebos, some people vitamins, and those with ADHD that had the vitamins perform better. But that's just feeding the brain positively, you know. So there are positive things we can to reduce those traits, but the ADHD is still there. It's like saying, you know, we did a study of people that played tennis and we noticed that after a week their nails grew. Well, you know, it's not a case that playing tennis causes that. It's just a case these things do help, but it's still there. And the best thing we can do, as we know, is diagnosis. And things with this demonization, we're gonna see a massive reduction in that. Sorry, my brain's not working. As I said, I have migraine. My brain's not working properly. But we've seen that diagnosis has a massive positive impact.
Yeah.
But this narrative, while we're fighting in the ADHD community to get greater funds for diagnosis, I want screening for every primary school child of all neurodiversity traits. And the long-term impact would be enormous and save our economy trillions over, you know, maybe 10 years, which is a lot of money. But this narrative is going to push against that, because we will see protests from people on the more right side of things when they're saying, yeah, we're going to put some more money into diagnosis, that they will have backlash. And then the politicians are scared to do that. So the amount of harm that this documentary's caused, I had to go on X today because a psychologist was saying, you know, I'm not against this documentary. These questions should be asked. It's enormous harm. There will be people protesting, which means politicians who want to be re-elected won't make those decisions to put more money in those services. Drug and alcohol is reduced, problems with it, by 50% by diagnosis alone. That's just one thing. Just imagine, and it isn't just them, it's when their parents and their kids and how that affects them. All this stuff is enormous. And as I keep saying, ADHD isn't the issue. It's the comorbid conditions that come along with the mental health of how we're treated and demonized. And this narrative doesn't do anything to help and support that.
No, it feels almost a bit like the Andrew Wakefield thing with, you know, the MMR thing that happened. It was in the 90s, I think that happened. I don't know. It's one of those sort of like watershed moments, almost a bit like this needs to be put to bed really quickly, because it's going to be doing, like you said, it's going to do so much damage otherwise.
And we still have that, don't we? Sorry, we still have that, Don. We still have people saying that vaccines cause autism,
the anti-vax,
and it was proven. It was proven to have completely made up all the results, even totally. The people didn't exist. But people will still argue that that's a thing, and it's that damage is enormous, isn't it? And it lingers.
Totally.
It's residual. That this documentary will be residual, the same as when the BBC did one. And the BBC, in fairness to them, they were right. They did one about how easy it was to get a diagnosis with some of these unscrupulous clinicians. But then people thought it was, massively overdiagnosed. Sorry, and we're still at 0.37% when we should be at 3 to 6% of the people in this country are diagnosed. So we're massively behind, but that's perpetuated that myth that I'm still arguing with people against. And politicians are still stating it as facts that we're overdiagnosed.
Yeah, no, it's so bad. It is. So, I think I just saw something online there, James, that ADHD UK have put on, they put out a tweet a couple of days ago, but they put a QR code, and it's sort of to get involved in their complaint system against this. Is that a worth thing for us to put in the show notes down and put a link to that?
Yeah, definitely. I reposted that as well.
Oh, fine. Yeah. We will do that then.
It's a good thing. ADHD UK are a great organisation.
Are they? Fantastic. That's good to know. Yeah, I thought I'd get your advice just before. You never know nowadays, don't you? You see these people and you're like, oh, are they okay? Are they not okay? But yeah, that's good. Yeah,
really respectable, very, very grounded and realistic, and
perfect.
a good force.
That's good. Excellent. That's good to know. Well, timing wise, I think maybe we should wrap up. Sal, you've got something else?
No,
Yeah.
I was.
thought you were
No,
gonna
I'm
ask.
not. I'm not going to conflate things. I'm going to leave that where it lies.
Okay.
Because it's been a rough week for disabled people.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it has. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll probably talk more about that on the next episode, won't we? But for now, I think we should wrap it up. Thanks, James. Really appreciate that again.
Thanks, love.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, anytime. As I'll second. You're our regular
guest. Do you want to plug any of your many pods?
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, I've got Koppert ADHD podcast. Is it's more of a kind of educational podcast for stuff that we've done one on PDA, obstacle defiance disorder. It's a bit more on like how to parent and things like that, but also why it exists. So if you've got that, it's a good one to listen to. And yeah, something completely different. 40 News podcast. Just being awarded the #1 independent British podcast, so that's good.
That's so cool. Awesome. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, we'll put links to those in the show notes as well. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, well done.
Cheers. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, cool. Well, I think with that, thanks for I can see my screen glitching. I'm worried we're going to drop out again. Yeah, thanks so much for coming back. We'll wrap it up and we will speak to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.